Okay, I want to say good afternoon, everyone. This is Salim Hilton here speaking with you all. I'm known in the community as Baba Salim, and some people call me Dr. Salim, and somebody just said, hey, brother man. So it's all good. I'm here today. This is what we have been doing a series on a podcast, which we intend to have a documentary at some point, and we call it Come Back to Give Back, a restorative approach from prison to community life. And today I'm going to take a special angle with the concept Come Back to Give Back, even though it's all relative. But I have a young lady here today who is going to speak on behalf of her experience working in restorative justice. And in past, we have interviewed persons who have been incarcerated and came home and got the training and went back into their community, respective communities, and began to make a difference using the principles and practices of balance and restorative justice. Now, today I have a young lady who did not go to prison. However, she has been working with returning citizens with the credible messengers here in the District of Columbia. And she has taken the training and she has a lot to share in terms of her experiences with both working with returning citizens with at-risk youth, or should I say these valiant young people in the community. And also she would be able to talk about how restorative justice has transformed her life. So I would like to welcome this afternoon Ladera Johnson, and I say thank you so much for coming up at the last minute and being my guest today.
Thank you. I appreciate the invite.
Mm. Well, we have been attempting to enlighten the community about how powerful this restorative justice has been in D.C. And my wife and I had an opportunity to train a number of you all who have been working with these community-based organizations who receive grants from the District of Columbia government to work with the violent young people in D.C. And they thought that this restorative justice philosophy would make a difference. And that's why we were hired to work with a number of you all. I guess we must have worked with over 500 staff people who were hired in D.C. through the Credible Messengers program and the Violence Interrupters. And I am so just elated that we were selected through our company, Youth and Families in Crisis LLC. I'd like for you to first tell us who you are, tell us a little bit about your background, where you came up at, and how you got involved with your employment and being a trainee in balance and restorative justice, Ladera.
So first, I'm Washingtonian, born and raised in Washington D.C. Southeast. I come from a large family. I
How large?
Well, it's six of us.
Okay.
So my parents have six children. I am considered the middle child.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, it's two middles, but I'm the oldest middle.
Sure.
Um, with that being said, I my one of my first jobs was a community job. So I worked with um, Metro Teenage, and that was when HIV and AIDS and STDs really became prevalent in DC, like spreading like a wildfire. So my first job was just being in the community, educating people about sex education, and just being a young woman of color, right? Just
Mm-hmm.
getting that information out of there. Um, Quickly transitioned after having my son to being a security guard, and that ultimately helped me feel way more comfortable talking to the community because I was a security guard with no gun. So I worked at a bank, and the irony of me,
Sure.
protecting somewhere without protection ultimately had to be word of mouth or just, hey, how you doing? Just building a relationship with the community.
Sure.
Um, Moved away, came back. One of my mentors introduced me to the Credible Messenger program, and she, knew me, knew my past, and was like, it would be a great fit. Started out, I think I was about 27 at the
You
time.
look 22.
Oh no, I'm 32.
Okay.
I'm 32. Yep. Started there. Really didn't know the work. Always had a passion for the community, but just really didn't understand the ropes. And at the time, I think the program had just started here. Maybe it was like 3 years in.
Mm-hmm.
Hit the ground running. Kind of like start getting relationships with people because always been a community person. Got a caseload. First caseload was really rocky, to be honest.
I can imagine.
Yes, just being one, them feeling like you young, because they, as you say, I'm 30 now. You like, you look 20. I was
Right.
that time, so
Right.
I looked
You
even
look like a
younger.
peer.
Yes, so I had a challenge with getting connected with some of the young boys because you know how that goes, and then some of the young girls felt it was a challenge.
Sure.
But I built my respect in it because I had a different way of bringing peace to them, right? I understood them on a level, but I also let them know, like, I'm an adult and there's other ways to get around what you're doing. And not all of them are criminals, or I would say violent, right? A lot of them just come from broken homes.
Right.
So, in the process of me becoming a credible messenger, I actually got restorative training as soon as I started. So, I met you guys right when I started.
And what agency was that?
East of the river. So I've
Okay.
been to a couple agencies, by the way, too. I
Sure.
just been in the work.
I know I know how you all move around, you know. Sure. Sure.
Pretty much got a good name for myself, and and I was able to start connecting with the boys because that's a big thing, right? Because you have a lot of this is a male ran kind of program, honestly. It's a lot of guys, so becoming a female credible messenger and being able to connect with the young boys was really like a strong point for me. But yeah, when I learned the restorative, I felt like this was really one of the keys to seeing some change in the people that I work with and also the people I was employed with.
Speak on that a little bit. What do you mean by that?
I think one of the things that stuck out the most was being able to converse with a person at odds and feel heard and they feel heard and you come to a common ground.
Mm-hmm.
To me, the talking piece.
Oh.
The talking piece was golden for me because I'm like, you can have a conversation with somebody and literally hear nothing they say because you have in your mind what you feel. And you're not ready to listen because there's nobody to say, hey, you didn't hear that.
Mm-hmm.
But when you have that talking piece, it's like you looking at it, you can't say, now I have to hold my tongue. And now you showing some type of resilience. And you feel good about yourself when you actually can listen
Right.
without responding so quickly because now you actually get to hear what this person said.
And that's the power of the talking piece because it's a process where the only person who can speak is the one who has the talking piece in their hand. And it's an indigenous practice. The Native Americans have been doing this for a number of years. And we have learned in our research that the West Africans also have a circle process and they use a talking piece. And what happens is it allows persons to say what's on their minds without interruption or sidebars. And it also presents some sort of order in the circle process. Speaking of that, how have you used it in the community with your population?
Again, being introduced to the work and seeing young people, right? And you get this caseload. You don't know where they come from. They could be what they consider ops, right? The young people call it ops.
Mm-hmm.
And they're opposition. So if you get two kids on a caseload that they're ops, you have to find a way to bring them together to sit them down without any violence.
Right.
So I had two young females who were both had a name in the community. Mm-hmm. They don't back down. They were strong and they were fierce.
Right.
And they were on my caseload together.
Okay.
So I brought them together. I had to put my fear in my back pocket because I didn't know what was going to happen. But first, I built a strong relationship with both of them.
There you go.
And the important thing for me was to get both of them to see each other's perspectives of what happened in the event. Because it was literally an event that happened, right? Mm-hmm. Or I would say an altercation. An altercation between the two where they never got the chance to speak for each other because what happened was it was gossip. So they're going off he say, she say, and they never got the chance to sit down and talk to each other. Mm. So one day I surprised them. I told them about each other. And one thing about young people, too, is if you put them on the spot, and they trust you, they don't feel so ashamed.
Right.
So I put them in the car together and we went to Six Flags.
Oh,
And they were forced to deal with each other. But guess what? You got to get on a roller coaster with somebody.
how about
So
that?
we actually sat and talked, and they found out like, oh, it wasn't you who said it. You know, it was something just as small as that, but it was literally them being able to hear each other. And the talking piece was a point that I used because I'm like, I don't even remember. I think it was like a brush I had in my car or something. I'm like,
Yeah,
you
you can
when
use
she
anything.
talk,
Sure,
you
sure,
know,
sure.
and from then on, it was like they're cool to this day. They're both doing well, and they were really at odds.
Well, this is really the essence of the practice of balance and restorative justice. Is because it is a relationship building process. If you go through many of the different practices, you will find that it's really all about building relationships, building community, and bringing about restoration where there's been some harm that has been caused. So you had a very smart way of building the relationships by taking them to Six Flags and putting them on a roller coaster together. But at the same time, you had an opportunity to take a restorative approach by using the talking piece. This is Salim Hilton talking, and I'm speaking to Ladera Johnson, who is a credible messenger here in D.C. And this is what I have been calling Come Back to Give Back, taking a restorative approach to improve quality life in the community. And then Ladera has been working with many of the returning citizens that we all train. As a matter of fact, she was more than like in among many returning citizens when she got her training, because that was the focus of the credible messengers and the violence interrupters, was to bring in those who have served long prison sentences and give them this tool, to go into the community and make a difference from a restorative approach. Tell us a little bit about your experience working with returning citizens in this with this concept.
Oh,
I know that
this
should have
is
been a challenge to a large degree.
yes, because what I've learned about people who were previously incarcerated, they have a way of life, right?
Hmm.
They are accustomed to it. And what is the name for it? Institutionalized. That's the
Okay, that's the
name. That's the
name.
name
Sure it
for it.
is.
Yeah.
Sure it is.
So a lot of them are institutionalized, and a lot of things you say, you have to be very careful how you convey it, right?
Hmm.
Just not reminding them of some of their vicarious trauma, maybe just from being in jail, and some of the CEOs may talk to them disrespectfully, or certain things, and being a younger person, right? Because a lot of people I work with was much older than me, of
Sure,
course.
because they've been away 20 years, some of them, or
Yeah,
more.
yeah, and
Yeah,
they're pretty much used to like a certain way. And like I said, when they come out, they want their freedom. They want their
sure,
freedom to move, groove,
sure,
talk how they want to. And
sure.
professionalism is one of the things that I feel like some people struggled with, because you got the job, yes, because of your experience. Now we have to transition from that institutionalized state of mind to being free and teaching someone else how to not go to that, right? Sharing, being a part of the community, being inclusive with each other versus feeling like, well, this is mine and this is yours. There will be even parts of like where we would have trainers about something called the Messiah complex. Because being incarcerated, you feel like what's yours is yours.
Hmm.
So if you get a caseload, you feel like these kids are mine,
Hmm.
right? But it's no, these kids are all of ours. So we all have to teach them, and we all have to go about it. So I think that was the biggest struggle, just like unlearning some of that behavior of like feeling singled out, or.
You made a very key point, Ladera, because as trainers working with this population, we saw all of what you're talking about: institutionalization, the behaviors that they have tried to hold on to as they seek their freedom. And we had created conversations with the organizations to tell them that, okay, they got restorative justice training. Now, what? we have observed they need life coaching now.
Agreed.
We just can't put them in the community with this tool without showing them certain things about making a positive transition back into the community. There's so many things they needed to know. I had worked in juvenile justice when I was with YSA, which is now Youth Rehabilitation Services. I designed a returning citizen program. We called it the Community Transition Project, CTP. And what I had put together was a number of resources in the community, and it was a faith-based program where we had 5 churches as a pilot that the congregation or the members of the church served as mentors, but they were also connected with various community-based resources in the community around finances, housing, jobs, all of that. Now, when they come home and they get a job handed to them, that like removes a lot of the stress that they normally would have, getting out here.
Right.
But the thing was that we realized that they needed so much more exposure to the real life when they came home.
Yes.
So you made a very key point in that regard. So what do you think now that you are a seasoned balance and restorative justice practitioner? What do you think about the practice now, and has it benefited you in your personal life?
Yes, and it's funny because a while ago I learned it and I applied it to work, but then I looked at my family and I noticed when you start getting new information and you bring it back home, you'll notice that family is not so excited to learn that they haven't
Sure.
been communicating effectively. And now, again, being the middle child, not being the oldest, having younger and older siblings, and then parents, right? They grew up, they were children once in their lifestyle. So bringing that home was kind of like, what you talking about? Or you don't know what you're talking about. It was kind of like the mom says, do what I say and not what I do, right?
Right, right.
So introducing that to my family was, I would say, difficult because how we handle things at home was, we're a big family, like I told you. How we communicate is we disagree until it's done. And then we don't talk about it again. And if it comes up again, we might go back and forth about it again, but
Sure.
that's it. There was never a solution or a conversation where I was heard and they were heard. And that's how my parents grew up, right? It was a lot of kids. I understand it. But once I learned restorative justice, and one day I came to my mom because I started recognizing some traumas I had, right? And I wanted to talk about it.
Right.
Talked to my mom, could pull my mom to the side. Hey, mom, you want to have a conversation? And she got triggered. And I was completely confused. I hadn't said anything. I hadn't broken down what I felt. I think it was just like she felt attacked because she's like, why are you so calm? Why are you, this is new, right? Because anytime somebody has an issue in my family, what we do? Screaming match.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm calm. And I told her, she's like, well, I don't have time. I said, well, it's okay. You don't have time right now. We can wait. And I think my dad, right, he scratched his head because he said, she too calm. So he said, why don't we just hear her out? And me and my family actually sat down and had a conversation. And for the first time, I felt at ease walking away from a disagreement.
Mm-hmm.
So again, like rolling it out to my siblings and stuff like that, and me being like the seeker, I'm like the seeker of information. I'm the one who's gonna study the religions and everything to try to figure out what is the source of this. And me being that person brought it to my family. I feel like now they know. So I have a really good relationship with like all of my siblings now. It's really improved the relationship. And sometimes it's uncomfortable conversations, but because I have that poise, and I've been learning something called EI, which is emotional intelligence.
Sure.
I've been taking this training for a very long time now. Dr. Sharon Anderson, she's great. She really breaks it down. But yeah, just using that and incorporating the restorative piece where I'm silent, I can listen even if I disagree. Superb. I think it's one of the best things I've learned in my adult life.
So you have found it to be effective not only in your work but with your family, and I think that's marvelous. I have a philosophy that once you do this work long enough, you become a restorative person. All of your ways, thinking, and everything becomes restorative by nature. So you are telling me that that is what has happened to you. I want to say what a wonderful experience this has been for me to have this conversation with you. You're a very bright young lady, and you articulate extremely well too. So it was a pleasure for you to be here with me this afternoon. This is Salim Hilton, and I have been talking to Ladera Johnson, who is a credible messenger, one of the recipients of the balance and restorative training that Mama Ivy and I had the blessing to be involved with many of the citizens in D.C., primarily returning citizens, but just like Ladera, she was not a returning citizen, but she had an opportunity to work amongst many of them. That was a rewarding experience. I know it was. Before we close out, do you have any closing comments that you would like to make?
Um, no, I want to give a shout out to somebody really special to me,
Sure.
Miss Nicole Styles.
Okay.
She has shaped me in so many ways. I mean, from being 15 to 32, I can still call her today with any problem, looking for a solution. She is like the golden mentor, and I really feel like she is, amazing.
We recognized that in Nicole when we were doing a lot of the, I guess you could call us para restorative people, because when there was an incident or whatever, they would call my wife and I in to conduct a circle to bring her back some restoration from the harm that's been caused. And I noticed how dynamic she was as a manager and a people person, and how well she could facilitate the process. I want to get her in here for an interview before it's all said and done, because I know she was one of those who was committed to the work.
Mhm.
So I commend you for recognizing her. It's always good to give people their flowers while they're still living.
Agreed.
Yes, indeed. So I'm going to say thank you again, Ladera, for coming out somewhat at the last minute to have this conversation with me. I know that your future is bright. I'm going to talk to my wife about you because you are special, and I can see where there's some things that we can possibly use your talent and skills as we move forward.
Thank you. I
So
appreciate it.
continue to do what you do, and may the universal God voice continue to bless you and guide you and be in the midst of your spirit.
Thank you. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Take care and
Love
be
you.
blessed.
You too.
Mhm.